Hey, David Raffoff here. Hope you're having a good day. I wanted to do a video on an interesting operator that's included in many functional programming languages called the pipeline operator. I'm most familiar with it from Elixir, but it exists in a lot of other languages and has been a kind of a normal way of doing things in Unix for a long time. And the cool thing is it's getting introduced in Ruby. I think it's in 2.7, and then is also being proposed for JavaScript. But I'll dig into what the problem is first that it helps address, because I think that that's obviously like the most interesting piece of this, and then kind of show you how it addresses it and why it's neat, and kind of how it can help you think a little bit differently about what you're doing with your code. So I'm going to go through the JavaScript example, but I think it'd be pretty similar for pretty much anything you use this with. So here you can see in this code, they're trying to build a greeting, and they want to build a greeting for alligator, and they're doing all these transformations to it. So we're doing with hello, with wave, capitalize, and then outputting hello alligator with a wave. And you'll notice right away, like there's a few things that are weird about this. One is that the transformations are kind of happening in reverse of how you would probably want to do them, and they're just getting more and more nested. So you're getting more and more parentheses, and if you broke this out across multiple lines, you'd see like deeper and deeper nesting of these calls as you added more of these transformations. And so it in a way kind of discourages you from nesting these things deeper and deeper, because just either your line's going to get longer, you're going to end up with a block of code that just keeps getting like more and more and more indented, which is kind of strange in a functional language, because you should basically be taking a piece of information and doing like transformations to it, and then get some output at the end of that. So what the pipeline operator does is it just makes it easier to do that, where you think about starting with your initial data and then just doing transformations to that until you end up with what you actually want in the end. So here's a quick example they have of what, like how you would use the pipeline operator to achieve this. So here you can see it's kind of the reverse now. So they're starting with the data alligator, the string alligator, and then piping that into the next function. And the way this works is just whatever came before is used as the first argument to the following function. I'm not 100% sure on how this JavaScript one works, but usually you can include additional arguments as well. They'll just be, the second, third, and fourth, or whatever on in terms of where they are in the argument list. But you can see this kind of reads a little nicer. It starts with alligator, and then it just says, essentially let you know you want to capitalize it, you want to do it with a wave, and you want to do it with hello. So I think the story is just a little more clear. And then when you get around to doing like longer transformations, or even ones that are like two or three steps that you can see here, it just reads, in my opinion, reads a lot better. It's kind of telling a story about a process that you're going through, like a pipeline that you're going through. So here it makes it clear you're starting with alligator, and you're just doing these things to the data, and then returning the value of that to greeting, and then you can output that here. So I think just like the story it tells is a lot nicer. There probably are some situations you have to be careful about. I don't know how JavaScript's handling it, but I know in Elixir, like if you have a function that can return kind of different things or like handle errors, you need to be careful about how you deal with that, and you have to do it in a little bit different way. But I found, just since I've started kind of using this pipeline operator a lot, that I'm a big fan of it, and it seems like a really natural way to write things. And one of the things I really like is it encourages you to think about what you're doing in terms of data transformations. And while you can technically just do it in JavaScript as it is, when your code looks like this, or when it gets hugely indented because you're doing one transformation after another, and you're ultimately kind of doing them in the reverse order that you want, it just really is kind of discouraging. And makes me not want to write code in that style. So while it really is just kind of like syntactic sugar, I do think it's kind of a big deal in terms of just encouraging you to think about functional programming a certain way. But the good news is it's just one more option. So if you're using Ruby or you're using JavaScript, this is an option that you can consider. As I mentioned, it's not actually in JavaScript, but you can play around with it in Babel if you're interested in doing that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it's also available in I think Ruby 2.7. So yeah, you could check it out there if you use Ruby. I think most of the functional languages have some version of this. I know Clojure and F# have something like this. I think Elm has something like this. But yeah, if you haven't tried it out, I'd suggest just like playing around with it. And anyway, if you have any questions about it, just leave a comment below. If you're interested in more videos like this, just hit subscribe and hit the little notification bell. And hit the like button, really helps out the channel. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.